So how do you succeed? What are the keys to success within strategic alliance? The standard literature on this one is quite simply that it is you're developing a relationship and so forth. And so people often argue that it's like a marriage. You have a honeymoon period, you go through some period of adolescence where you're sorting things out. And then you grow into maturity and you're doing fine. So they tend to start out good, suck for a while, and the question is whether they come out of that period where you're having very difficult times and ever recover at all. And if they move on and prove durable, then the assumption is that over time you've figured it out and know how to do it. The couple of things that you need to do are as follows. First, you have to have a really good, well structured contract. The contract, to be effective, has to specify the parties who will be in charge of enforcement and the promises and compensation. The promises are what is it you'll do, the compensation of what is it you will be compensated for doing, and the consequences of failure need to be explicit. So you want to have a good contract laid out. It deters opportunistic actions. You do that by threatening lawsuit, dissolution terms, and all sorts of things like that. Sometimes you actually make an investment, and that investment serves as a hostage, something that each party stands to lose if one misbehaves. A contract also is important because it gives you a platform and opportunity to discuss who's responsible for what. What are your roles? What are your responsibility? What are the goals? What are the milestones? What determines performance? And it puts everybody on the same page. The fun part about negotiating a contract is that if you do it well, you never use the darn thing because you have a great relationship. Anytime you have to start looking at a contract, you know that you're in trouble. Agreements come about because someone is championing it. The champion is usually the individual who says this is a great idea. They're the ones who motivate both parties towards success, and they're the ones who make the investment in the personal relationships and so forth. To be effective, you have to have authority. So if an alliance is going to succeed, they have to be high up. Anytime you're looking at an alliance and if someone lower level is engaged, you should stay away. And the more powerful the parties involved, the greater the probability of success of the alliance itself. The mantra on all this is communications, communications, and communications. It's the key thing. You need to talk often. You need to talk. Uh, you need to respond to each other quickly so that accountability is enforced. You need accurate information, so analytics and data is important, and they need to match reporting levels so that you have a alliance reporting to, so that the people in charge of the alliances are equal on both sides of the equation. If you have people that are on an unequal level, it's another sign that this is going to be a problem. As usual, what do you look for in a partner? Well, we know all that. Reputation, stability. You've got to have the right sets of resources and skills and things that you bring to the trade. And cultural compatibility is also important so that you're able to talk to and work with each other. And these idiosyncrasies can be something as specific as research cultures. They could be cross-border. There could be cultural. So one of the things that is important is if you're working with the Japanese, you have to learn the Japanese culture, be able to develop that relationship. The wonderful thing is once you've done that, because of attributes of that culture, the alliances tend to work very, very well. Um, but they're difficult and take a long time to develop. The red flags, differences, strategic changes, change in personnel, all sorts of things can undermine an alliance. They are a very difficult tool. What I'm going to do is go to the fourth part of this lecture, in which I'm actually borrowed a lecture from one of my students, Corey Brown. Corey is now teaching uh, at Washington. He negotiated 20-25 strategic alliances in his career and has a very interesting perspective. And I think sharing his perspective will be useful. So we will address that in the next part of this lecture.